All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are digging into a pretty wild theory. The idea that while we've all been glued to the charts and the news, a massive, fundamental shift in the entire global financial system has already happened. Quietly, completely out of sight.
And this single line really sets the tone for everything we're about to unpack. It suggests that the most important financial event of our lifetime didn't make a big splash. It happened without anyone even hearing a thing. So what exactly is this silent switch? Well, the basic idea is this. While regular investors were busy worrying about the day-to-day price, the world's biggest companies and banks were supposedly busy rewiring the very plumbing of the world's economy. And look, this isn't about trying to predict what's going to happen. The claim is that it's already a done deal.
And this is where the theory gets really bold. The source material is basically saying that the integration of this new financial system isn't something to look forward to. Nope. According to them, that race has already been run. The system is live and it's already humming along.
So you've got to be asking, how could a change this huge just go unnoticed? Well, the first clue, according to our source, was a strategic move that wasn't really a partnership at all. It was more like a corporate Trojan horse.
So check out the strategy here. Instead of going to all these massive companies one by one, trying to sell them on a new system, Ripple just went and bought Treasury, the software they already use to manage their money. We're talking about the financial backbone for giants like American Airlines and Volvo. So by buying the platform itself, Ripple effectively onboarded over 1,000 huge companies by default. They didn't even have to know it was happening. And the scale of this is just mind-boggling. We're talking about over 1,000 of the world's major corporations now supposedly plugged into the Ripple ecosystem, maybe through nothing more than a simple software update they barely would have noticed. And, it's not just about how many companies. It's about the money they move. Together, these corporations handle about $12.5 trillion a year. The theory says that all that money, all that value, is now flowing over rails built and owned by Ripple.
And that brings us to this key idea, stealth adoption. See, the beauty of this approach is that the companies didn't have to get a crash course in blockchain or XRP. Not at all. All they had to do is keep using the same trusted tools they always use to move their money around. The tech underneath it all just got a quiet upgrade.
But corporate software, that's only half the story. The next piece of this puzzle, according to the theory, involves the very institutions that everyone thought were the competition, the big, traditional banking giants.
For years, right, the story we all heard was a fight, JP Morgan's JPM coin versus Ripple. A real competition, but the theory we're looking at claims the reality was more of a quiet handshake behind closed doors. The proof? When one of their major clients needed a better way to move money around the world, JP Morgan didn't spend years building a new system. The theory is they just used the Treasury system, which of course was already running on Ripple.
And this wasn't just happening with one bank. The theory scales this up to an entire continent. While the US was bogged down in regulatory debates, Europe was allegedly building its own financial bridge. They have this thing called the TAS network portal, linking thousands of banks. The theory suggests Ripple didn't try to compete with that. Instead, it became the plumbing for it, the underlying tech for instant payments across borders.
Okay, so the tech is supposedly in place. Corporations and banks are on board, but for the really, really big money to jump in, two more things had to happen. The industry had to look mature, and the legal framework had to be crystal clear.
First up, the alliance. When you had leaders from projects that used to be rivals, like Ripple and Cardano, suddenly start working together, it sent a huge signal. It basically told the big institutional investors, hey, the Wild West days are over. The game wasn't about fighting anymore. It was about building one big, stable, interconnected system that they could finally trust with their money.
And the final piece of the puzzle, according to this theory, was the law. It alleges that a piece of legislation, let's call it the Genius Act, got passed in mid-2025, cleverly disguised as just some boring stablecoin rules. But what it supposedly really did was remove all the legal gray areas that kept big, conservative funds on the sidelines. The theory is this law would basically define digital assets as core financial infrastructure, paving the way for things like spot ETFs and unlocking trillions in institutional cash.
Which, of course, brings us to the elephant in the room. The one question I'm sure is on your mind. If all of this is true, if this massive adoption has already happened, why does the price chart look so flat?
Yeah, it's the big paradox, right? All this supposed utility, trillions of dollars flowing through the system. So where's the big price move? Well, the source we're looking at offers a pretty compelling and honestly, a kind of unsettling explanation.
The theory is that this market isn't driven by retail hype anymore. It's run by institutional algorithms, and they play by a completely different set of rules. They don't buy when things are rocketing up. They buy when things are flat and boring. The whole point is to bore regular investors like us into selling. So, a flat price isn't a sign of failure. It's a feature of their strategy to accumulate as much as they can.
And our source points to history, specifically to silver. For years, silver was just dead money. It traded sideways, shaking out anyone who was impatient. And then, when the move finally happened, it was so fast that anyone who had sold was completely locked out. The argument here is that we're living through that exact same quiet accumulation phase right now.
And that really brings us to the main point of this whole theory. All the hard work, all the foundational stuff, the corporate hookups, the bank partnerships, the legal green light, it's all done. We can't see the skyscraper yet, but the foundation has been poured and it's set in solid concrete.
So I'll just leave you with the same big question the source poses. When you look at all the pieces of this theory, what future seems more likely? Are we really going to go back to the old, slow, expensive way of doing things? Or are we stepping into a brand new era where money finally moves as fast as information? According to this theory, that choice has already been made for us.